Here.
Angela Joy 1. Susan Kennedy. Thank you.
Okay, let's rise for invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Lord, we ask your guidance today as we consider matters that will affect the safety and welfare of many people in our country or county. Help us listen to open minds to matters that are important before us and to act on those matters that will benefit those who reside in our area. Keep our minds open and alert, our hearts compassionate, and our comments charitable. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Zoning Commission of Palm Beach County has convened at 9 a.m. in the Vista Center, Ken Rogers Hearing Room, 2300 North Jog Road, West Palm Beach, Florida, to consider proposed applications and staff recommendations pursuant to the Palm Beach County Unified Land Development Code. The Commission takes final action regarding Class B conditional uses, subdivision variances, and Type 2 variances, and issues advisory recommendations on other requests. The Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County will conduct a public hearing at 301 North Olive Avenue, West Palm Beach, Florida, in the Jane M. Thompson Memorial Chambers, 6th floor, on applications not subject to Zoning Commission final action. Zoning hearings are quasi-judicial in nature and must be conducted to afford all parties due process. The Board of County Commissioners has adopted procedures for conduct of quasi-judicial hearings to govern the conduct of such proceedings. The procedures include the following. Any communication with commissioners which occurs outside the public hearing must be fully disclosed at the hearing. Applicants and persons attending the hearing may question commissioners regarding their disclosures. Such questions shall be limited solely to disclosures made at the hearing or the written communications made a part of the record at the hearing. Any person representing a group or organization must provide documentation that the person representing the group has the actual authority to do so regarding the matter before the Commission. Any person who wishes to speak at the hearing will be sworn in and may be subject to cross-examination. The applicant and county staff may cross-examine witnesses. Any other persons attending the hearing may submit cross-examination questions, including follow-up questions, to the chair, who will conduct the examination. The scope of cross-examination is limited to the facts alleged by the witness in relation to the application. Public comment is encouraged, and all relevant information should be presented to the Commission in order that a fair and appropriate decision can be made. Do we have proof of publication?
Motion to receive and file.
So seconded.
Swearing in.
All those wishing to testify on today's quasi-judicial items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Aye. Thank you.
A motion to approve previous minutes.
Motion to
September
approve
4th.
The August minutes.
Yeah, because it says August, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
September
September.
4th.
September, yeah, I'm just
We
reading.
have a motion.
Motion.
We have a motion.
Yes, motion, I made a motion. It's the September
We have a
minutes.
second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass. Now, amendments to the agenda.
Yes, good morning. For the amendments to the agenda, you have a handout before you and that we emailed yesterday. Item 1, Tropical Lakes PUD. We're proposing to delete a condition of approval as shown in strikeout related to unity of control. That's a code requirement. Item 2, Little Tropical Lakes. We're proposing to make some modifications to engineering conditions as shown in the handout and strikeout and underline. On the regular agenda, item 4, Shops at Southern Palms. We're correcting an error related to the reference to the Zoning Commission where it should just reference the BCC in one of the conditions of approval. And item 5, Nash Trail. There was some handouts that we received yesterday that we emailed and that are before you, and then there was an email this morning. We do not have the applicant's documents that he emailed, not the applicant, the opposition emailed some documents at 6:30 this morning. We believe that they have those and may ask to submit those for the records later when the item is forthcoming, but when we receive things after add delete, we don't have time to share or print. And the documents we received yesterday were shared with you and they were posted online. The last item that is not written is we're requesting to move item number 7 related to freestanding emergency room ULDC changes to occur immediately following consent agenda and before regular agenda.
Any requests to pull from consent?
No.
There was, Mr. Chair, there was just one item. You didn't say it. It's on the add delete that the regarding the motion for Nash Trail.
Oh, yes, yes. Motion for Nash Trail, we're correcting an A to a B.
All right.
Motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll second that motion if we can reorder the agenda for item 7 under.
But
We're
We did-
proposing
we
to
already
move
did.
item 7.
She did request that
Yeah,
in the
that
agenda
wasn't,
review.
I didn't think that was part of the motion. Okay.
That's part of the
Seconded.
motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Let's start to my left. Any conflicts or recusals?
No.
No. No.
No.
None.
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 Right. And moving on to the consent agenda.
Yes, if there's any disclosures on the consent items, there's Tropical Lakes PUD, Little Tropical Lakes PUD, Lions Glade Center.
Any disclosures starting to the left?
None.
None. I spoke to Heather Jo Allen on number 1 and 2 and Lauren McClellan on number 3.
None.
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 Okay. Can we have a motion then on the consent?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passed. And moving on to the
This will-
regular agenda.
The regular agenda, and we'll start off with an applicant's presentation on item 7, freestanding emergency department. This is a privately proposed revision to the ULDC called Phase 1 or initiation. This is, we do have proposed strikeout and underline in the packet, but it may not look like that when it ultimately concludes the staff review. So if this item is, the recommendation today would move forward to the Board of County Commissioners later this month, and then you would see it again in the future.
Okay. You may start.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Brian Terry with Insight Studio. I'm here on behalf of, we have one particular client that really has initiated this process for us. Mr. Seymour is here with me as well. And really, the purpose of today is just to introduce the freestanding emergency department. You've had a couple of these uses come in front of you as the zoning commission. There's no definition within the code that covers exactly what a freestanding emergency department is. It's been classified as medical office, it's been classified as hospital a couple of different occasions, just depending on circumstances. And so we're here initiating this, been working very closely with zoning staff to try to make sure that, again, it kind of works within the confines of the code. Very simple. There's three portions of the code that we're going to be modifying to accommodate for this use. Again, what it is, it's not a hospital. It is associated with a hospital. It's the type of use that it's a freestanding emergency department. So it's different than urgent care. It's not a medical office. It's not a hospital. It's a hybrid of all of those things in some form. And then it follows the ACA guidelines and definitions. And so that's part of the conversation. I think what Lisa may have just been referring to is the fact that it's going to continue to evolve. Further discussions will occur between the health department and again, working with the ACA guidelines to make sure that ultimately the use is very clear. Everybody understands what it is. We are looking to orient it underneath the medical office definitions, right? So it within the use, what I just blanked on the table well, the uses are either permitted. There you go. Thank you so much. The use matrix. It'll fall underneath the use matrix as a medical office use. And it has a definition. Again, we're going to do three things. Article 1, we're going to move the definitions from urgent care and ambulatory into the same location, where we'll be defining ultimately the freestanding emergency department. Article 4 it will fall under the medical, and then Article 6 is where we're going to define or have a slight definition or a use for the parking ratio. Again, here's where we're going to take them out of our Article 1, the definitions for the ambulatory and the urgent care. Those are now going to fall into Article 4 under the medical office. So you see those typical uses get defined in that location. And then further in Article 4, this is where the freestanding emergency department gets defined, as well as some specific criteria to that. Those definitions or those criteria are probably what's going to get tweaked as we have further conversation. But ultimately, where they're located, where they're allowed to be located, as far as being on major thoroughfares, the hours of operation, how the emergency vehicles access the site, and then ultimately screening that may be appropriate for those emergency vehicle areas. And then lastly, making a revision or making a category for this use in the parking code. Again, it's not medical office, it's not urgent care, it's different than those, so we're proposing a 1 per 300 square foot parking ratio specific to this use. That is where we are. We appreciate you guys' consideration of this. As was mentioned, this is phase 1, looking for this to initiate to go on to the board, and then continue the dialogue to refine the language and bring it back to you guys for final adoption.
Okay. Thank you. Anything from staff?
I'm not sure, Jerome, would you like to speak on this item, or Alex?
Good morning, Jerome Otti with the Zoning Division, here to present on Phase 1 for this privately proposed revision to the Unified Land Development Code. Okay, so the proposed revision, let me just wait for the slides to come up. Okay, so the proposed revision establishes a freestanding emergency department under the medical or dental office use in Article 4 of the code. As stated by the applicant, we have worked very closely with them to add a definition for the use, which is generally based on the definition of Florida statutes. We have added some location criteria. As emergency departments are 24/7 operating, we have clarified that the Type 2 waiver process applies when it's within 250 feet of a residential use or future land use designation. We have added regulations for emergency vehicles to basically protect the adjacent residential, and we have added parking requirements to better reflect the actual parking demand of the freestanding emergency departments. So just quickly on the phase 1 and phase 2 processes. So we have this privately proposed revision, and it's a two-phase process, phase 1, phase 2. In phase 1, we do some preliminary research and analysis, and we present to this board for recommendation of initiation of phase 2. And in phase 2, that is where we get really deep into the research and the analysis. For phase 1 also, we go back to the board after you guys give a recommendation for initiation. We go to the BCC at the end of the month for approval of initiation so that we can move on to the phase 2. So then if the BCC approves, you'll see us again for phase 2, which is final adoption and all that stuff. Okay, so some facts on the freestanding emergency departments. They are regulated by Florida Statute Chapter 395, where a definition is provided and requirements to differentiate from urgent care. And the differentiation is mainly to ensure that patients clearly understand that they will be treated similarly to how an on-site hospital emergency room will treat them, and also to ensure that they understand that insurance coverage is different. Freestanding emergency departments are affiliated with and licensed under hospitals. For example, you'll see that freestanding emergency department on the screen there, which is located on the southeast corner of Jog Road and Lantana Road. It's not located on the same premises as the Delray Medical Hospital, but it's licensed under them, owned and operated by Delray Medical. So some basically some issues that you'd have to, that will be treated by a freestanding emergency department. These are typically emergent in nature, life-threatening type of issues, such as suspected heart attacks, suspected stroke, severe allergic reactions, severe burns. So staff recommends approval of Phase 1 and initiation of Phase 2. The motion for today is recommendation of initiation. And this is the end of my presentation. Staff and the applicant are here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Is there expected to be any regulations regarding distance that the ED has to be from the parent ED, the hospital?
No.
Because I understand that fire rescue needs to bring any severe emergency to the closest ED, and the closest ED may not be the hospital that has everything that can be afforded to a person who might be having a very serious heart attack, something like that, that may need to have advanced life support in an ED.
If I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
You may.
For the record, Brian Seymour, I'm the attorney for the applicant. The short version is it is a full emergency department. It has to be by statute. There are not specific distance requirements in the code. The fire department knows when and how and what. So the emergency responders know where everything is. They know where they need to go. They have their routing. But if you have a severe heart attack, you'd rather go to the emergency department that is there than go to the hospital because it is closer. And they have it literally, it is a full service emergency department staff with a board certified, ours are, board certified emergency room physicians, nurses, equipment, everything that you would see. There are a few things, you get your leg severed, they probably would take you to the hospital because you may need a full operating room. That may take some time, but realistically, we don't get many ambulatory or ambulances. It comes down to less than half of an ambulance a day when it averages out. And mostly it's folks who are coming in on their own, but the fire department particularly knows when and how to get where they need to go because they have their technologies that take them there too.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
The only disclosure I have is I know Mr. Seymour, and he told me that he would be at this event, but we didn't discuss the substance of it. So there's no issues here for
Okay.
me.
I think we're ready for a motion.
A motion to approve
Second.
the ULDC language.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay, moving on the agenda, then we'll go to item 4.
Item 4, Shops at Southern Palms, is a proposal on an out parcel in a site located at Southern Boulevard and Sainsbury's Way, and we have an applicant to make a presentation.
Disclosures.
Good morning, everyone.
Disclosures.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, disclosures.
Disclosures from members.
No disclosures.
None. I spoke to Scott Bachman.
None.
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 All right, we may proceed.
Excellent. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Scott Backman on behalf of the applicant. So you see up on the screen there, small sliders. We're actually here to present an exciting and new quick service restaurant concept that's making its way into South Florida. There are other locations in northern Florida, and as you can see, throughout the country. The brand was founded and started in 2019 in Louisiana, and as you can see over the last 6 or 7 years, is quickly and rapidly expanded. Kind of the theme or the motto, obviously all in the name: small format, small menu, small burgers. And you'll see that as part of this presentation, actually. Very small, simple menu. It's sliders, fries, and shakes. It's relatively minimalistic, which allows them to really move customers through the process. And then you can see with the distinctive and, again, small building footprint, and again, you'll see in our site plan presentation as well. It's a relatively small building footprint. Actually, the outside seating area is larger than the building footprint itself. And it's a very distinctive type of architecture. It's actually an homage to the very first small sliders from Louisiana, which is actually retrofitted in a shipping container. That is not the case here. These are regularly constructed buildings for purposes of the usable space, but the shipping container concept has been incorporated into the architectural theme of the building, as you'll see, and we've actually been working with staff pretty substantially throughout the approval process to work and modify the architecture so that it's more consistent and compatible with where we're proposing to locate it in Palm Beach County. So we are proposing this as an out parcel within the Shops at Southern Palms Shopping Center. If you're familiar with it, there's a Dick's and a Kohl's as the primary anchor tenants. It is on the north side of Southern Boulevard, just east of Sandsbury Way. The fairgrounds is just to the north and west of the property here. It was all a very industrial area, and I actually remember working on this project when it came through for original approvals as an MUPD, and you'll actually see when I share some of the architecture, some of the concepts actually had a bit of an industrial theme, in particular with the frontage and facade to the Dick's Sporting Goods. So this is the approved site plan. Again, we are proposing to locate just to the east of the Dunkin' Donuts. There's a fairly substantial parking field out there, more than enough parking to meet code prior to and with the proposed application. And then here's our, the actual requests that we're proposing. So 2 applications are before you today. Development order amendment to reconfigure the approved MUPD site plan. We're also proposing to modify one of the sign conditions to allow an additional out parcel sign, which is permitted by code. And then the second is a Class A conditional use, which is a requirement for a type 1 quick service restaurant, which is exactly what we're proposing here. As you can see there, we're actually proposing building 793 square feet with 825 square feet of outside seating area. The site plan itself actually, and this is noted in the staff report, actually adds back some additional open space. Currently what's out there is just a paved parking lot, so it creates some additional pervious area on a relatively small building footprint. And then again, the size of the outside seating area, there's a screening wall around the outside cooler. Some railing that separates the vehicular circulation area from the outside seating area. And then the drive-through and bypass lane, the drive-through actually stacks 12 vehicles, which is well exceeds what's required by code. And that's the animations. So the balance of the presentation, the next 3 or 4 slides focus on the architecture. This is what you're looking at here is a typical small sliders footprint. This is their typical architecture that you would see in most of those locations that I showed you on the map earlier in the presentation. This is what we originally came in and submitted for working with the county. You're all aware Article 5C requires compatibility, and we are an out parcel to a larger shopping center. So we spent a very significant amount of time working with staff, modifying the colors, modifying the architectural features, modifying the stucco banding and other elements of the project so that we are consistent with the balance of the shopping center. In particular, I think you'll all agree, the adjacent Dunkin' Donuts immediately to our west. A lot of similarities between the building that we ended up with for this particular location and the Dunkin' Donuts adjacent to us. And then I had also mentioned the theme for goods, a lot of the industrial heavy metal components there. And so you can see that, and we've got a number of different, I think this is all part of our visual impact analysis that was submitted as part of our application as well. So just a variety of different features and how they are consistent with the balance of the shopping center. So there are multiple requirements and criteria in the code, as you're aware, for purposes of the development order amendment, and we meet all of them. The staff report that you all have in front of you acknowledges that we do meet all of these criteria. Staff is recommending approval. We have our whole team here that are happy to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff?
We do have a staff presentation. If you would like, it covers most of the information that Mr. Bachman provided. One thing I would note is Article 5C, that's the architectural guidelines of the Unified Land Development Code, and that requires that when you have a multiple use plan development with such as this plaza, the anchor tenant of the Dick's Sporting Goods and the Kohl's, and then the out parcels, this one has a Texas Roadhouse and a Dunkin' Donuts and a Mint Echo car wash that isn't built yet. So there's requirements for architectural consistency. And when the applicant first came in with that brown color palette with the containers and such, we directed the applicant towards a waiver for unique structure. However, in working with the applicant and trying to bring some of those features in, we have the compromise before you today. I think when those 5C architectural guidelines and multiple use plan developments were set, there wasn't as much industry architecture that you'll see nowadays, and that seems to be kind of a theme. For example, Seven Brews, they have a certain roof look. Orange Crush does as well. So this is something that you'll be seeing more. And if that's an area of discussion that the board would like, we could have, maybe a workshop conversation on Article 5C. And we do have architects on this commission, so if you want to discuss that further. But this was the best compromise that we were able to secure consistency with Article 5C, though it is, like you saw, the graphics going to be a little bit different than some of the others, but then again, so is Texas Roadhouse in that plaza.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much. Any commissioners would like to see the rest of the? I think we're good. We're ready for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of item 4A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
I'd like to make a recommendation of approval item 4B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Okay. Moving on to item 5.
So for item 5 is Nash Trail, and this item was before you in April and in May. It was remanded by the Board of County Commissioners to completely redo our hearing today. So you will be taking a motion and a vote on a fresh recommendation on this item. And before we get to the presentation, if we could have disclosures.
Starting on my left.
Sure. I received 3 emails from the attorney who's representing some of the neighbors who oppose the application, Mr. Eubanks, and containing documents that apparently they are either presented as part of their packet or will present today. And I also had a lengthy telephone conversation yesterday with Mr. Eubanks and one of the neighboring property owners, a Robert Palahulak, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, yesterday.
Okay.
Same here. I received an email from Mr. John Eubanks and also a call, and a call before from Mr. Robert P., I will say, with the respect about the last name.
Okay.
Okay, I spoke with John Eubanks, Robert Palahulak, and also had several emails.
I, too, spoke to John Eubanks and some of the neighbors regarding this project.
I also had a conversation with John Eubanks and Robert Palahulak and received the emails.
Received the emails.
Likewise, I had a conversation with Mr. Eubanks and received some emails, also conferred with staff.
I need to say that, too. Oh, I'm sorry. I also had to add I received emails.
Okay.
And before we go to the applicant, Wendy Hernandez has served as the project manager for this item. As you can see, she's arrived. And could we swear her in so that we don't have to do it later?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
You may begin.
Good morning, Commissioners. Doug Murray with WGI on behalf of the applicant. So as Lisa mentioned, this was before you back in April, and we were moving forward to the Board of County Commissioners due to a lawsuit against Palm Beach County by the neighbor's attorney and accusations that procedures were not correctly followed. We agreed to be remanded back before you today, which was, agreed upon by the applicant to make sure that everything was followed correctly. So before you today, we have the Nash Trail Townhouse Project. We're requesting a rezoning and Class A conditional use. It's an official zoning map amendment to rezone 7.5 acres from residential estate zoning to single-family zoning. We also have a request for a Class A conditional use to allow for 53 fee simple townhomes as part of this request. To get you familiar with the location of the site, we have the site outlined in yellow. It's north of Lantana Road, west of Haverhill Road. It's actually just north of the American German Club on Lantana, if you're familiar with that. And again, the property is 7.5 acres. From Haverhill Road, you would go west on Nash Trail and north on 52nd Drive to access the property. You can see outlined in white, that's the city of Green Acres. So it is adjacent on two sides to the city of Green Acres. Here's a little bit of a closer view of the site. Again, the development that you see to the east is called Blossom Trail. It's currently under construction. It's a D.R. Horton project. And to the south is an existing PUD. It's Colony Reserve PUD. That's adjacent to the property. To the west, you have a mix of single-family, agriculture, equestrian uses, and then also, again, Green Acres with two large planned development subdivisions. The site, accessed from Haverhill Road, will have improvements to those roadways. Nash Trail will be improved as part of the Blossom Trail development by D.R. Horton. And from the end of Nash Trail, they're going to improve it to the end of Nash Trail to meet Palm Beach County standards. Then from that point on 52nd Drive North, it's basically a dead end and a right turn. From that point to the project entrance will be improved to completely meet Palm Beach County standards to the entrance. This slide talks a little bit about the surrounding density of the site. So currently we are at 7 dwelling units an acre for the 53 units. To the east, the Blossom Trail project is at about 8.4 dwelling units an acre. To the south, Colony Reserve Townhomes is 8.5 dwelling units an acre. To the north, Green Acres across the canal, you have a little bit lower density projects on those single-family developments, around 4 an acre average. And then obviously to the west, lesser density. This development, by definition, is an infill development. In my opinion, it's a great location. Within 1 mile, you have the county park, which is Buttonwood Park. It's 24 acres. That's on the south side of Lantana Road. You also have an elementary school and a middle school within 1 mile of this project. Zooming in a little bit, talking about the zoning. Again, we're going from residential estate RE to the RS zoning district, which is basically the next step up to allow townhomes as long as you are requesting the conditional use. This slide is the land use. We're not changing the land use. The land use is existing MR5, 5 dwelling units an acre. So it is obviously compatible, as all the way west is MR5. Just to note, with the MR5 zoning in the county code, if you utilize the bonus density, if you utilize 100% workforce housing bonus density, and this site, that entire property would allow 2 dwelling units an acre, you can get up to 12 dwelling units an acre with proper approvals, but that is something that is permitted by code, and we're at 7. Zooming into the site plan itself, talking about the layout here. To start, we have a 0.45 acre recreation area as you enter the development. We have 3 separate areas on the property totaling 0.84 acres. The development was basically designed to pull the housing as much away from the western property line as possible to give that separation for the neighbors. So that's why we located our dry detention area in blue there. To the north of the property, we do have a dead end there, a turnaround, meeting county standards, but we also allow for an emergency access if needed at that area. As far as the buffering, on the west property line, we have a 20-foot incompatibility buffer with a wall, which is adjacent to agricultural use, equestrian use. There's active equestrian use on that property. The remainder of the buffer, we'll get into that on the next slides, how we're exceeding code, but we're proposing a 20-foot incompatibility buffer with a 6-foot Simtech fence, which I'll go into a little bit later. And north and south property lines, we have a 17.5-foot incompatibility buffer with a fence added to that. And adjacent to 52nd Drive, we have the 15-foot right-of-way buffer. The slide discusses the tree preservation on this property. There was a substantial effort to preserve as much vegetation as possible. So we have the three tree preservation areas, which will not only have the trees preserved, but will be enhanced through additional plantings as part of that. Let me back up, sorry. So the total with including the tree preservation areas and there's a lot of trees we're also preserving in the buffers. We're preserving a total of 254 trees on this property. 133 of those trees are in the preservation areas, and we have 82 trees, all of these mostly pine trees, in the buffers to be preserved, and 39 sabal palms to be either preserved in place or relocated. Talk a little bit about the community outreach between our office and the neighbors and the developer. The first meeting was on March 26th of 2025 of this year, followed by 3 additional meetings with the neighbors that you'll hear from in a little bit. Following these meetings, Lennar's attorney has also been in contact with the neighbor's attorney multiple times to discuss the neighborhood concerns and trying to meet in the middle on all the improvements we're proposing. This just shows the neighbors you'll hear from shortly that are immediately adjacent for the most part to the property. They were all in these meetings, so you can see the concerns are privacy, safety, security, and we've tried to work with them as much as we can with the site constraints to meet all their needs, and we'll get into that in the next slide. As part of this, let me review a couple things here. We did agree, I'll get into some of the landscape improvements that we're going to make on the site. We did agree to work with the county, if possible, to add a speed table on 52nd Drive. It's subject to county review and approval, but that's something that we agreed to meet with the county on, and if possible, we'll propose that. We also offered to build a fence. The developer offered to build a fence on the east property line of 52nd Drive at the end of, 5536 52nd Drive, which is at the terminus of 52nd. Developer offered to build a fence on the west property line, which was declined by the property owner. This slide shows the code minimum buffers and also what we're proposing. Go through this briefly. Along the property line, we are adding above code. We're agreeing to a 6-foot high fence, which will be constructed along the rear town-owned property lines, so technically not within the buffer. We have north and south property lines. Code requires a 10-foot buffer with either a 6-foot hedge or fence. We're proposing a 17.5-foot buffer with a 6-foot opaque fence. West property line is kind of basically split into two because the southern portion, the southern 325 feet, is technically abutting agricultural use, so that requires a type 3 incompatibility buffer with a 20-foot width, which is the most intensive buffer that you can propose in the code. That we're basically proposing the 6-foot high concrete wall along the agricultural use, and the remainder is required to be 10 feet by code. We're doubling that to 20 feet, and we're adding the 6-foot high Simtech fence, which I'll discuss in a moment, about why we're using that in lieu of a wall, which I know is requested by the neighbors. Here is, again, the buffer, the northern 600 feet that doesn't have the concrete wall. To the left is the required buffer landscaping per code. You have a large shrub, small shrub, and a canopy tree. To the right, I've highlighted the improvements that we're making to this buffer. We're doubling the width to 20 feet, adding an additional Palmer pine every 30 feet, adding a medium tree every 60 feet, adding medium shrubs. We're adding a small 1-foot. It just serves to make sure that it's the 100-year storm drainage, to make sure all the drainage is contained on the site. We cannot, part of this is that we cannot, with all the vegetation that we're preserving, we cannot propose any tall berms, because the root systems of the pine trees are very sensitive, and that would just cause them to die. So this shows another slide illustrating the buffers and what we're proposing as far as screening material. So north and south we have the 6-foot opaque fence. That's the typical 6-foot, solid PVC fence. To the west, we have the southern 20 feet. We have the concrete buffer, which is concrete wall, which is required by code. The remainder you see in purple, we are proposing a 6-foot Simtech fence, which on the next slide I'll illustrate what that looks like if you're not familiar with it. But it's basically a composite fence. The benefits of it, similar to a wall, but I think it's actually an improvement over a typical concrete wall. The biggest reason we're doing this is to minimize impact on the surrounding trees and root systems, because no heavy machinery is required to install this wall. It's a composite material with galvanized steel reinforcement. It's still resistant to hurricane force winds, meeting Miami-Dade standards. It's maintenance free. It doesn't require any further painting. The paint doesn't fade. It blocks 98% of the direct sound, and it's made of recycled materials, so it's eco-friendly. Here's a couple illustrations of what that would look like, just a couple color differences here, but again, it looks, very realistic, looks like a stone wall. As far as the workforce housing on this site, the project does include a workforce housing, a request for a 39% density bonus. That density bonus requires a workforce housing obligation of 4 units. The developer is proposing to utilize the offsite exchange builder option, which will be built. It's not a buyout. It will be constructed on an offsite property. The units will be constructed offsite. We understand that it's preferred that the workforce housing is typically built on site. To offset that, the applicant has voluntarily agreed to increase that to 6 workforce housing units, which will be provided offsite as 9 rental units. The reason it goes from 6 to 9 is there's a multiplier. If you're not doing, the same type, if you're going from for sale to rental, you have a 1.5 times increase in the number that you have to provide. So the builder has actually already been identified who's building these offsite, and it's a partner with Palm Beach County Housing Authority. As I mentioned a couple times, the builder will be Lennar Homes on this site. Lennar has a very strong presence in the county. They're known for building quality product, known for being very active in the community. Here's a proposed rendering of the townhomes. We have 2-car garages on the end, single-car garage in the middle, 2-car driveways in all driveways. Again, for the rezoning, we are in compliance, as shown in the staff report, for all the rezoning criteria and standards. The Class A conditional use to allow the townhomes, we're also in compliance, as shown in the staff report. Staff is recommending approval of both of these requests, subject to the conditions of approval for the Class A and the rezoning. That concludes my presentation. I'll be here for questions. We also have representatives from Lennar and their attorney.
Thank you. Staff?
Thank you. So I apologize for being late. I was stuck in a major accident on 95. So hopefully all the families there are well. It was unfortunate. Several cars involved. So anyway, moving on to this application. As stated, it's on the west side of 52nd Drive, north of Nash Trail. It has an MR5 future land use designation, RE, which is residential estate zoning classification on the 3 lots, and it's just a little bit over 7.5 acres. There's 2 requests that we're presenting: an official zoning map amendment from RE to RS, and a Class A conditional use. With the rezoning to the RS district, staff have identified conditions that are necessary and have also done an analysis for a conditional overlay zone, which includes the conditions of approval in Exhibit C1. So the area is adjacent to the town of Green Acres on the north and east. On the northeast, we have an AR piece of property. On the west, AR, which is a mix of single-family homes, some of which have agricultural uses as well, bona fide ag uses. To the south, immediately to the south, is a preserve area and a single-family residence that's part of the townhouse development, the PUD, that's further south of Nash Trail. So all of that being plain unit development. And then along Lantana, you have a mix of institutions, an American Club, MUPD with a mix of industrial, gas station, institutional uses aligning along Lantana Road. So the application is to rezone from RE to RS with a Class A conditional use for townhouses. They do also include an administrative request to increase the density through the workforce housing program. It is administrative because it is less than the 50% increase. So of that 38 units proposed with the MR5, 15 through the density bonus program. Other features on the site also include the recreation areas, the management tract, access. This plan doesn't depict it, but as this has been postponed several months, they're also proposing to include some additional parking on the north east side. So then the northern detention area was going to have, I think it's around roughly 6 parking spaces that could accommodate guest parking for visitors for the residents. And that's the blow up. That change had occurred between certification and presenting to the boards. So we've had a lot of conversations with the public, the adjacent residents. This has been before you before. It has been postponed and then, of course, remanded by the Board of County Commissioners back to you for us to present again. So some of the issues that I want to briefly discuss based on what Doug had said. I do have quite a bit of analysis in the staff report as it relates to landscape buffers. That is one of the things that the residents do want, are increased buffers and increased landscaping. On the last few pages, that's part of the staff report, the applicant provided a disposition of all the trees that are preserved on site because it is very heavily vegetated with a lot of pine trees. And so as part of their documentation, they have described that there are 612 trees that exist on site. 234 are going to be remaining in their original location, and 327 are going to be mitigated. So mitigated includes cash out, mitigating off-site, or mitigating on-site. And so in his presentation that he just said, they're going to be mitigating 82 trees. We have yet to see that. So the applicant still needs to present that. The documentation that was presented to staff and submitted officially is stating that they are going to mitigate 1,097 trees on site. That's quite a bit of trees to preserve on site. We do recognize that, so we'll have to confirm further what it is. But that goes into play on additional conditions that the residents want. If they're preserving 1,000 trees, we don't necessarily need the additional vegetation because they're already required to mitigate those trees. So we will have further discussion with the applicant between now and BCC, but I just want to point that out because his presentation said 82, but their official submittal is 1,097. Okay. So some of the buffers that they have and presented, we do have different types of buffers. We have compatibility buffers when the uses are similar to each other, compatibility buffers when they're different, including different housing types or commercial, industrial next to residential. And then we have what we call right-of-way buffers. So along the east property line of 52nd, they are required to have a 15-foot buffer. That it was a right-of-way buffer that includes canopy trees, pine trees, and different types of shrubbery. And part of their agreement, a wall or fence is not required in that type of buffer. But as Doug had stated, he is proposing to include a fence, but it would be on the rear property line of those townhouses that align 52nd. That is the minimum required buffer, what they're providing. On the north property line, as their drawings have indicated, a 17.5-foot buffer. So this type of buffer is a type 1 incompatibility buffer, and the minimum requirement is 10 feet when you have a 6-foot hedge that's proposed. But when you include a fence or a wall, because you have those options, that buffer minimum increases to 17.5. So though he said they've increased the buffer, they're increasing it because they're providing the wall, which is the minimum, or fence, because that's the minimum required, along with the vegetation. On the south property line is the same, so they've increased it to meet the minimum code when they provide a fence. On the west property line, that's where it differs, because we have some agricultural bona fide ag uses. On the southern 325 feet, the neighbor there has some horses. And then on the northern 600 plus feet is a single family home. So in that area, you would have a type 1 incompatibility buffer because it's townhouses next to single family. And that would be a minimum 10 foot with a 6-foot hedge. Again, they're proposing a fence, so that would increase to 17.5. Through negotiation with the residents, they did agree to do the 20-foot width with additional landscaping. The northern portion does have a lot of preserved trees from the pine trees that are on site that they're preserving in those locations. So, what they have proposed is a 20-foot width with the and staff has conditioned them to have the same vegetation as a type 3 incompatibility buffer with the fence. On the southern 325 feet, there is a required wall to protect the ag from the residential uses. So it would be 20 feet in width with required landscaping minimums, and then the wall that's required. So with their preservation tree, we suspect, in addition to the minimum landscaping that we have required by zoning, they will probably infill additional landscaping that they're mitigating, the 1,097 in that buffer as well. So creating quite a block of vegetation on there. They did propose in their documentation to do a 1-foot berm. Staff that. We did request their civil drawings. Their civil drawings aren't quite up to date yet. All the postponements and so forth. So, and the civil drawings that we received do not accommodate for the existing vegetation. So we will have to evaluate that at time, if this gets approved at time of final DRO, how that berm would work. The residents do want a 3-foot berm, not a 1-foot berm. And again, staff can't commit to any type of berming. It will impact preservation of pine trees on that property line. So that is clarification on the buffers. I also want to point out there is discussion that the residents will have as it relates to connection to water and sewer. So as part of this development, they are required for these townhouses to connect to water and sewer. So they will have to that particular property. There are utility easements running along 52nd Drive on the west side of the road that will be reserved as an easement. However, in discussion with Palm Beach County Water Utilities, as part of their requirements with their regulations, a stub out is required where we will have that fire rescue emergency access on the north. The Nash Trail has been advised by water utilities that the water and sewer lines will have to extend to the property line there. And if the resident across the street wants to connect to water and sewer, they would be able to just connect and pay for their connection at that point next to the fire rescue at the property line. So it wouldn't be a connection or lines being laid down 52nd, a separate line, you know, like one line diverting into the townhouses and one line going down 52nd. It would be a stub out, kind of a C-shaped connection, and then if the resident wants to connect, they'd be able to connect at that point. So I think that was addressing the water sewer connection. But other than that, staff is supportive of this request to rezone. The conditions for the cause relate to environmental and preservation of trees, regardless of the zoning district and use on the property. And then there are several conditions for the use through the Class A conditional use.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments before we get to the public?
Yeah, I have for either the applicant or the staff. How many units currently can be built on the property as it's currently zoned?
With RE, they have 3 lots. They'd get 3 single-family homes. 1 on each lot.
1 in each, so 9 total then?
1 on each lot, so 3 total.
3 total, okay. And in the evaluation of the criteria, I guess, they have to show that it's consistent with the plan and consistent with the code. And can you explain how the proposed rezoning is consistent with the code and with the plan?
Okay. So as part of our evaluation, we do distribute this out to different agencies for consistency with the comprehensive plan. Our planning staff provide an analysis of all the future land use elements and levels of services and different elements that they have in the comprehensive plan, and that has been provided. They have the MR5 future land use designation, even though they have the RE zoning. RS is a consistent zoning classification with the MR5 future land use. There are several different types of zoning districts that are consistent with MR5, RE being one of them, but RS is consistent for the comprehensive plan, meeting the policies of the plan for rezoning for that. For consistency with the code, the proposed subdivision, it does meet the regulations for RS. They could build 3 single-family homes on RS, or they could build, well, 0 lot line would be a conditional use as well, but single-family subdivisions would allow for the subdivision of lots that were 65 feet in width, and I believe 75 feet in depth. So the subdivision of single-family residences is also a possibility other than townhouses, but RS is consistent with the ULDC, meaning the subdivision regulations.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a question. Is somebody here from WGI for the applicant?
Doug Murray, who spoke.
No. And Doug is from WGI. Can you come up here? I have a question for you. Yeah. Did you?
Yes, ma'am.
These 3 parcels, were they surveyed all as one? Because I see the site plan here. I can't really see. It doesn't look like a survey. Did you survey all 3 together?
It was all three together, yes.
And you came up with 7.57 acres.
Correct.
Because I understand the property appraiser's office, they do have that statement that it may not be exact, but it's a half an acre off. So, and it makes a difference of 3 homes if it was. So I just want to make sure, would you know why it would come out to just 7.1 acres instead of 7.57 acres?
You're saying if you add
Yeah,
them
the 3
together
parcels.
on property appraiser,
The 3
you're looking
parcel
at?
control numbers, yeah.
Uh,
Is there any
Number one, property appraiser is...
intellectual reason?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that the northern, probably 50 feet or so, does have a Lake Worth Drainage District easement over it, and there may be something there that so that area is basically not developable because it's belongs to Lake Worth Drainage District. There's an easement over it, so maybe there's an inconsistency there where property appraiser possibly thought that was part of Lake Worth's land. That's the only thing I can figure, but I know a lot of times I've seen personally that property appraiser is not accurate in some cases. But
I do know that Lake Worth Drainage District does sometimes own some land and might deed it back to the person. But, okay, so so there's you actually, what you consider, the whole 3 parcels is 7.57 acres.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was surveyed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I had 2 questions, and that may be, might be more for Wendy. The workforce housing that's going to be off-site, is that going to have to be complete before they get their CO, or talk to me about the timing on that?
Travis, we have conditions on the timing of that.
Good morning, Travis Goodson with the Planning Division. So the timing for the exchange builder is going to be prior to issuance of the first residential building permit on the Nash Trail site. They have to provide the notice of disposition for that. And once they've done that and they've paid the exchange fee, then it becomes the responsibility of the exchange builder to construct.
Okay. And just one more question, not related to that, but with regard, I think I understood, Wendy, what you were talking about with regard to the stub out for the water, but how far away will that be from the resident? Do you know the resident that's kind of in the island up at the...
I'm not sure how far his setback is from his home, but the width of the road is roughly around 50, 60 feet. So if
Okay,
it's
so
built to
it'd
the
be up
property
kind of
line,
across from
then
him
you
then.
would cross the road,
Okay.
and then it would be his property.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other comments from board members?
I just want to thank the staff for getting back to me so quickly and explaining that. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the public comment cards. We have 5.
So I will call you up. Please, when you come up, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And so first, I'd like to call up John Eubanks.
For the record, John Eubanks, 605 North Olive Avenue, from Sniffen and Spellman. We represent Mr. Ross, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Palahunik, who's the guy with the island, and Mr. Sapp, whom are here. I listened to these presentations, and they're great. They always tell you what the applicant has found a way to put on a small piece of property and technically check all the boxes. The problem I have from my client's standpoint is they're all in AR. They've been in AR. AR, I looked up the definition of AR. What was it supposed to be for under the ULDC? AR district is to protect and enhance rural lifestyle and quality of life. My clients respectfully say this isn't going to protect, much less enhance the rural style, the rural lifestyle. The question is what the people who put together the ULDC were smart. They said, we don't want to have some shocking differences between communities, so what we'll do is we'll put in RE. RE, as we just heard, 3 houses. So they're small lots, but there's 3 houses that would be put there. So I looked up the definition for RE. RE district is to provide transition between agricultural and conservation areas and urban residential communities, which is exactly why you don't have condominiums in RE. it doesn't meet the standard, it doesn't meet the definition of a transition from agricultural to urban. Instead, what the applicant is saying was, well, we can figure this out. It's close enough on the other things, so we'll just move RS over to RE. That's what my clients are looking at it as. It's not what the applicant is, what they're gaining, it's what they're losing. They're losing over 150 feet, I think it is, of RE between them. So a buffer right now, they would have a buffer, a huge buffer. Or if they only had 3 houses, they would not have this kind of density. So the argument for us is, look, when you bring in this type of density and you bring it to AG, you need to step up your game and do even more. Now, we appreciate what the applicant has done and what they've, the additional buffering in some of the places, but we're really worried about mostly that western side. Look, when the colony came in, they came in and did a 4-foot berm, a 6-foot concrete wall all around the property. So we're asking, though, from our standpoint for, well, actually 2.9 foot berm, and we're asking for that concrete wall to go all the way up that property. Now, to the extent there's some trees, and we've talked about trees a bunch here too, the code itself has obviously a mitigation factor. So if in putting that concrete wall all the way up the side there are trees that'll have to be taken out, then yes, you may have to have some other mitigation. But that doesn't mean you can't do it, and that doesn't mean the code actually provides for it if it's in the way. So from that standpoint, we keep hearing a lot of those issues. We do appreciate some of the increased landscaping buffering. We've actually sent out, I think it was probably this morning, I think I saw everybody got it, what we would consider to be the correct amount of, the conditions of approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up Robert.
Could I actually ask a question of Mr. Eubanks, though?
Sure.
You may.
Okay. So, Mr. Eubanks, you heard the applicants, they addressed the issue of the berm that they were apparently offering to provide on the western side. I think 1 foot. I think your clients are seeking a 3-foot berm. What I heard was the applicant raised a concern about the 3-foot berm would impact the types of vegetation they could put on that, the effect on the root system, and as I understood it, that's why they were proposing a concrete wall that only extended a portion of the way along the western boundary, and then the remainder being the Simtech wall. Could you address that?
Well, a couple different things. One, the concrete wall, we have a little bit of difference on that. Right now, we think that an AR wall should be there all the way up to the front as a matter of fact. But what we have is that staff has said, no, only if you actually have your agricultural exemption today do you get that wall. Now, Mr. Sadler's here, and he's got AR, and he's in the process of doing that, or we can ask him what he's in the process of. But at the same time, then if we're going to do that, we're going to have a disconnect between wall and Simtech fence as well, and he won't get the protection of the wall despite the fact that they're both in AR. And that's another one of those things that, look, if you're coming in and adding the density, ideally my clients don't want to see them, Kylan houses don't want to see them, don't want to hear them, don't have a lot of light pollution. That's part of going the extra mile. Now, as far as the trees go, if you actually look at the site plan, what you end up with is, it's kind of interesting, down on Mr. Gordon's property, it's a swamp, right? So part and parcel of what we have is flooding along that wall. So we're saying a 1-foot berm with the actual wall on top of it is not going to be effective enough to do that. Now, it may very well be, but nobody's shown us exactly which trees or what we're talking about as far as if, in fact, you did that berm, how much would it take to put in there, and would it? What we're talking about right now is there's a possibility, and I don't think we know that yet. So we're asking to get what they want back, which is just that agricultural feeling and lifestyle.
Thank you.
All right, next card.
Okay. I'd like to call up Rob Lahonick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Through the chair, the applicant has some slides. We verified that they're okay for Channel 20. Are you accepting that he can show the slides?
Any objections?
No motion to
We're-
receive.
We're good. Thank you.
We need a motion to receive.
Need a motion to receive? Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. You may
Robert Palahunik, 5536 52nd Drive South. This is my current residence. You're looking northeast. Sorry. This is looking southwest to the applicant's proposed subdivision. As you can see, the canopy trees, a lot of those are going to be taken out. This is my home from a top view. So it was brought up, I asked for city water, city sewer, paved road, and would have something similar to what this is currently. And somebody said, oh, we got to bring the road up to standards. Well, that's fantastic because Palm Beach County already did it 10 years ago. They dug up from the terminus point of the FPL lateral and my mailbox all the way down to Nash Trail at that, and then east to Haverhill. They dug down 10 inches, brought in FTOT fill rock, they compacted it, rolled it, brought in lifts, and then they put crushed asphalt down and they rolled it again. So this is looking back to Haverhill. This is what they want to put in. This is actually built on Military Trail over by Rohrbeck subdivision. This is their exact rendering. No canopy trees. When you go back to where I currently live, this is what D.R. Horton did. That 233 homes, 475 cars are going to come out of that entrance every day, shared by the Lennar proposed subdivision. So all I'm asking for is paved road, city water, city sewer, which the applicant's great. It's going to be a stub out, fantastic. However, I would like landscape buffering so I don't have to hear them or see them. If you look at the Colony Reserve, which is far south of the roofs, that's what it's going to be. There's not one canopy tree that is there. Every canopy tree that you see here closest to you is going to be removed. So I'm a little concerned at what I currently have. When I moved there and I built this house, I didn't move there to live in the zero lot line. I could not fight to Horton because I'm not a resident of Green Acres. So, although I did fight it on the zoning, we lost. They excluded me from the vote when they actually put it out to the residents and who they voluntarily annexed. So looking at this, this is what I currently see, right? This is my yard. And to ask, someone asked a question, how many feet on the south side of my home from the middle of that window to where the stub out, it's about 250 feet is where I would have to run city water, city sewer to get out to where my house is. Someone asked, how 7.57 acres? How is that even possible? Because they're using the Lake Worth Drainage District Canal as acreage to increase their density. Their property, you are correct, it's 7.01 acres. It is not 7.57. I can't build on my right-of-way. No one can build on it, but they're using it for increased density. I appreciate what they've done. It's much enhanced. I've worked with them. We've tried to work with them, but we're just at a slight impasse, I don't believe. And I'm concerned about the value of my property. So with that, I know I'm out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any rebuttal from the applicant at this point?
Well, we might want to wait for
Wait,
rebuttal
okay.
till after all public comment.
Okay,
Are there
let's go
more
to the
cards?
next card then. Thank you.
I'd like to call up Walter Ross.
Good morning, all, everyone. I'd like just to recognize this being the 31st year of the West Palm Beach Green Market. Opens on Saturday. I was asked.
Can you speak up a bit? We
Oh,
cannot hear.
the 31st anniversary and start of the West Palm Beach Green Market. I served on the board, invited by Nancy Graham as the first local grower on the board, and since then had opened many, many other green markets in the 30 years that I've been growing tomatoes on that site, within 500 feet of the applicant. Well, you've heard the definitions and you've received our communications. I just want to say a lot of this considerations. I'm here just to only ask and always have is to continue the proper wall berm and setback for AR as Raleigh has been allowed by the applicant to run just all the way north through the whole AR district property line. Two things to consider. I interviewed the SimTech company called Florida Fence and Lantana, and they're only rated for 110 to 136 mile an hour gusts. I don't know about you, but in 04 and 05 we had hurricanes every weekend, and you know, they pop out, they go down. They're not that, they're very thin. They look great, by the way, and yeah, they handle the sun, but a cement wall and a berm is what's needed. That's all we're asking over there. And let me talk to the berm. I mean, I remember when it rained 20 inches in 24 hours a dozen years ago, and everything will flood. And we're backed right up against their drainage ditch or retention ditch, and to have a 3-foot berm and a wall is smart, just to mitigate any kind of flooding and drainage. You know, you can hide from the wind, but you got to run from the water. You can't stop it. So, you know, in that, it also would, you know, benefit both sides. It's protection and separation for agriculture, and why we you know, bought into that place. Plus, the residents that are in this new development, you know, heavy landscaping and a wall would benefit them as well. And it would, the liability of anything flooding because of the 3-foot berm, well, if it backs up to them, or it goes over and through and down into all of our properties. So please consider those thoughts.
Thank you.
Extend the wall, please.
I think I didn't move that card. Were you Michael Gordon? Was that Michael? No. Michael Gordon's. Okay, sorry. I'd like to call Michael Gordon up, please.
Good morning. Michael Gordon, 5360 Oldsmobile Drive, Lake Worth. I'm the property owner of the equestrian property to the southwest of the applicant's project. A lot's been said, a lot's been shown, but I'm just going to focus on the reason for the requiring the berm. The area right next to me, I'll call it the Fountain property, that's the first parcel, is very low lying. The vegetation in there is Brazilian pepper and a bunch of ferns. It's quite wet all the time, not just on heavy rains. It's quite wet. The Fountain property is on a raised pad, and it has been for 40 years. And it slopes down, and the water collects between my property and their property. So when you look at the tree preservation map that the county has provided, you'll see a very sparsely, densely populated area of pine trees to be preserved, right abutting me. To the Sadler property, to the preserve, high and dry, lots of pines, don't touch it, it's beautiful. But when they come in to take out the invasives, they will be using machinery, and when you use the machinery, you're going to wipe out the root systems of what remains there. So my property, abutting my property, will look much like the property next to Mr. Palahunik, wiped out clear. The area in which the developer would like to put their playground area, that's also low-lying. Can't have kids playing in the swamp. So all that's going to have to go, they're going to have to raise grade. What happens then? The water comes my way. So I'm requiring a 2-foot, 9-inch berm with the wall just to keep the best separation we can have, because they are going to wipe out the vegetation next to me, all of it, just to make their property work for them. So that's my reason for the berm, and that's the way it should be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last card is Bill Sadler.
Good morning. My name is Bill Sadler, and I own the property bordering the Nash Trail development to the west. I'm on the northwest side. There's around 600 feet of bordering property line there. We purchased the property back in 2009 with the sole purpose of raising horses for my kids. We historically have had as many as 4 horses there, a couple of goats, we've had chickens, we've had all kinds of animals and livestock on this piece of property. Currently, we don't have horses there. We had other commitments, so we kind of stepped aside and we're doing some other things, but our intent long-term is to bring those horses back. They're currently up in Ocala right now. We're going to bring them back. We cleared the land. We put a pasture there. We have stables. And even though we don't have an ag exemption, it is still AR zoning, and our intent with the property is to raise horses, just like my neighbor to the south. So we've been told that we don't deserve a wall because the fact that we don't have horses and there's no evidence of horses on the property. But the fact remains, we have a pasture, we have stables, and we will be bringing our horses back. So we don't understand, we appreciate the wider buffer. We don't understand why that concrete wall can't be carried all the way up to the north side, bordering the entire west boundary of the AR zone houses. So we would definitely appreciate your consideration and the respect to build that wall all the way along the entire west boundary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards.
That's all the cards.
At this point, any?
Do we want questions?
No questions, no comments from?
I have a question of staff, if I can.
You may.
It just, this issue about the farmland, the county, even if it's fallow, it's considered farmland. It can be fallow. It can have horses or crops. So what is the reasoning why there wouldn't be a wall there for the agricultural residential area? Because it has to go specifically by what the property appraiser appraises it?
No, our code addresses the minimum required buffers, and the minimum required buffers are based on uses. So at this point in time, what we have identified is that particular northern property is a single-family residence and doesn't have an agricultural use on the property. The southern property does. That's not to say that the applicant couldn't agree to extend the wall up further, just like they've agreed to continue the 20-foot width of the buffer. But the minimum required is a fence because it's a single-family residence, and our code addresses uses.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Out of curiosity, when both parts planning to keep trees or keep the swamp or avoid the swamp, isn't a place in the project when it's approved that thing has to be done? Because we see pictures, or I can imagine statistics from builders and developers. It's about progress, money. I know, I understand, but the statistics are like, oh, we have this picture beautiful with trees, but at the end, it's not. They have to remove the trees because they need to raise the land because it's construction. It's a point when they have to accommodate and commit to preserve the trees. If they said the trees are be there, is a way for the county to check that happened?
Okay, Tim's going to speak, but I just want to say that, as I had mentioned during my presentation, the applicant submitted a tree disposition to us for us to evaluate. In that disposition and on the documentation, and I included it in our staff report, they indicated the 600 some trees that are existing on the property. They also indicated how many are going to be preserved in place, and that's what we're relying on, and how many are going to be mitigated. And in that document, it says that they are going to mitigate 1,097 trees on site. It doesn't say cash out. It doesn't say off site. So that's what we're relying on. That's what's presented, and that's what the applicant has submitted as his application. We do evaluate the civil drawings and the PNV. I don't remember what that stands for, but the PNV from ERM is evaluated for whatever reason. It wasn't submitted concurrently with this application, but it is and will be evaluated by ERM. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Tim to talk about their process on the tree preservation.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Timothy Haynes, Environmental Manager of Resources Protection Division at ERM. So yes, we do tree assessments and evaluations at the initial site visit, at the pre-application stages. We review this comprehensively through the public hearing application. We also have a protection of native vegetation application approval. So all of the trees that were indicated to be preserved must be preserved. There are instances in the development where trees might be damaged and they might die. We do have mechanisms in the code where they will be required to mitigate for those trees. If they die and they had indicated that they were supposed to be preserved, we subject the applicants to double mitigation. Replant basically twice the amount and size of those trees that were removed, and or if they can't fit all of those species, they do have a secondary buyout option. So yes, we do have that covered in our approval process.
And I will also point out, so that's like right now we're at stage one. The protection native vegetation is the second step. We also have a permit that's required for tree removal and a barricade. So they also have to barricade the trees for preservation in order to, the goal is to ensure that they're not damaged when we're doing the site development permit. So they have to get that before they actually get the site development permit. So there are several steps that we've tried to put in place in order to help preserve all the trees.
Okay, no, thank you. It's important to know because one thing that is that you are putting together two different, spaces, environments. One is agricultural, the other is not. And the more that you can do for both parts, it will be helpful. Thank you.
And I will also say, engineering, land development is here too, and they have permits as well that have to go through the process to ensure that all of the on-site drainage, all the drainage is contained on-site. So that is also evaluated also, so we don't have to worry about, not that we don't have to worry about it, but we ensure that there isn't drainage taking place and flooding the adjacent properties.
Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant, yes.
Yes, thank you. If I could just respond to the issue regarding the existing trees. So we have within the buffer, we have the 82 trees are specifically within our buffer that we're preserving. The trees we're mitigating for 327 trees, 327 existing trees, which equals, because they're mature trees, that equals a mitigation of 1,097 replacement trees. That's what we're indicating on our tree survey information. We've not designated where those 1,000 trees are going. Typically, ERM wants us to fit as many of those trees on site as possible, so we're definitely going to do that. So, those are trees that can be additional trees that we're going to plant in the buffer throughout the site. It's 1,000 trees. That's probably too many that we can fit on site. So, some of those will probably have to be either planted off site. If there's a place, sometimes there's a place that the county allows us to plant off-site for a fee, and then there's also a buyout fee. So I just wanted to clarify that we're not committing that all of those 1,000 trees are going to be planted on site, but the 1,000 is also, again, there's 327 that we're affecting, but because there's a little bit more mature, it equals the 1,000 trees that are a 12-foot height tree. And I was also going to speak to the drainage, so thank you for responding to that. And quickly, as far as the berm and the wall, if I could respond to that quickly, the only reason we're proposing this Simtech wall is to protect the trees. It's not a cost savings for the developer. As I stated in my presentation, the amount of equipment used in heavy machinery to install this Simtech wall is much, much less. There's no heavy machinery. If there's, as far as my research, it was built to be hurricane resistant. If there's any damage to the wall, that's the HOA's responsibility. If there's a hurricane comes and anything gets damaged, HOA is going to replace that. Regarding the berm, again, the only reason we're not providing a berm is because we want to preserve the vegetation. When you build a 3-foot berm, because of the slopes that are required, just the slopes, the 3-to-1 slopes to get you to the peak of the berm is 18 feet wide. And if you're proposing especially a concrete wall, you have a foundation, you need a flat area on top of that berm. So you're talking probably, if that's a 5-foot flat area, that's 23 feet of berm. So you're affecting 23 feet of area where we just have a ton of trees, and that's going to result in a lot of trees needing to be removed, a lot more.
All right, thank you.
Before you go, I have a quick question for you
Go
too.
ahead.
So I
Yes,
understand there's one area on the site that is continually lower than the rest, and I would assume that as part of you have to bring it up to grade, right? So would it be higher than the surrounding properties? But I know by code you have to keep your water on site, so I
Right.
guess I'm just-
So as part of, it's actually a condition of approval from land development, any site that is, if we're adjacent to a site that does have historic flow onto the property, we will accept that drainage. So there's not a situation where we'll just raise up the site and cause the adjacent site to flood. We have to provide a topographic survey of the surrounding land, and if the topographic survey shows that it slopes towards our site, we have to accept that drainage into our system.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I think we're ready for...
I have a question actually of staff to follow up. Mr. Palahunik raised some issues with regards to basically being left on an island, I think as he described it. And he asked that the sewer and water be extended and that the road, I guess it's 52nd Drive South, be extended with solid paving. Could you respond to his request?
So Olive Bailey with Land Development, I can speak to you about 52nd. So currently the proposed project introduces trips to the site up to their entrance. So they don't introduce trips past that entrance. So we've conditioned them to develop the road to 52nd Drive to their project entrance and transition back to the existing road. So that's typical of what we do for any project that is on an existing road. We assess are they contributing trips, how far along that road they're contributing their trips, and we will condition them to improve the road to that point where they're contributing the trips. So we're not conditioning them to pave all the way to the north of the 52nd Drive.
And if I may, so you can see the graphic there. You could see Nash Trail coming in along the southern end of Green Acres, and it goes to 52nd, and then 52nd goes north up to the subject site, which is the red outline. And Mr. Palahunik's property is that square due east and wrapped around by Green Acres. So, and here's the actual site plan, and it shows the access point on the southern end that Olive was speaking to. And that, so they will not be, and can you explain again? I'm sorry, Olive, any improvements, if at all, to that northern entrance point?
That's correct. So they're conditioned right now to improve 52nd Street Drive South to their project entrance and transition back to the existing road. And that's because they contribute trips only to that point. They're not contributing any trips further to the north. And that's how we assess all projects. Yes, and it's a county maintained road. 52nd Drive South is a county maintained road.
Okay.
And then the other issue he raised was with regards to extending the water and sewer. What I understood is that he would be able to connect to it.
Yeah, so the way that we were advised by water utilities is that, does this have a thingy? Oops, no, it's just
no air. There's no.
Sorry. How do I go backwards? Anyway, the water and sewer line would come up from the south to their entrance and then ultimately turn left into the development and be laid in the road of the townhouse developments. On the northern end of that subdivision plan, you can see where there's a roadway that curves back to 52nd. That's a fire access only. That's the location where they might have parking for the guests. But at that turn towards the east, they will have to extend the water and sewer lines to their property line at that point in time. And that's a requirement of water utilities. So that's the provision of water and sewer to that line. And if the resident wants to connect, there is a connection point at that point where they would pay for their portion of the line if they wanted to connect to water and sewer.
And to ensure that that requirement of water utilities is not missed, we're going to be adding a condition of approval that the stub out occur at the property line in order to make sure that there's no accidental forgetting of that extension to the edge of the property line. But it won't go further into the right-of-way. You can see the graphic here. It'll go to the northern end of the property line.
Because I think one of the issues is when you say the stub out or the water and sewer lines will go to the edge of the property, you mean the edge of the property that we're considering rezoning?
Yes.
I don't know how far of a distance that then is from Mr. Palahunic's property, if it's just they touch or if there's some.
We can't have a condition of approval go beyond somebody's property. So I don't know the distance from the edge of the red outline to the home itself, but that's not within our scope to add a condition of approval to go beyond the property line.
Okay.
Applicant, go ahead.
Sure, if I could respond. So it would just be from the 50 feet, the 50 feet of right-of-way would be the only space between the stub out and his property for the 52nd. So we're stubbing out to 52nd, the edge of the 50-foot right-of-way, and then, so it'd be 50 feet from his property.
The right-of-way, who owns the right-of-way?
Palm Beach County.
Okay, so he would have to get approved by Palm Beach County to extend or to create the water and sewer lines to connect them to.
Correct.
All right.
I'm sorry, if you
For
could
that.
speak closer to the mic. I don't think we're
sorry.
catching.
Mr. Palahunic would have to request from Palm Beach County to be able to extend water and sewer lines from where the applicant's property ends to Mr. Palahunic's property. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the subdivision, and 52nd is a 50-foot public right-of-way, and then I believe he testified that his house is set back 200-plus feet. So
Understood.
250 feet.
200, yeah. So he would have to 50 feet plus the 200 to connect to his house. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other
One quick
questions?
comment, too.
All right.
Can we go back to the landscaping as well? If accidentally the trees that they're preserving or mitigating are damaged, and then there's 3 ways to to remedy that, right? They can pay for that, they can move and put trees somewhere else. Is there a percentage of how many trees they have to actually maintain on the property if, God forbid, half of them, die, the trees die?
Yeah, so what they have on site, generally speaking, we have a requirement in our code for upland preserve areas, and that's based off of acreage. But there's other factors that are brought into account when we are designating sites for upland preserve areas, and we look at compactness for the vegetation, diversity, and the flora and fauna, habitat and different species. So in this case, they would be required to do a 25% of the total native vegetation quality preserve area. So that's how they have gotten to that acreage that they have preserved on site. So all those tree preservation areas that they have, and we have conditions of approval, that vegetation has to be maintained in perpetuity.
Okay, and just for the record, those preserve areas are listed on the actual site plan so that they'd have to replace it exactly in that spot,
Correct.
correct?
It is included as part of the development order, so it lives with that application.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, I think we're ready for a motion on item 5A.
I'll motion to recommend approval of item 5A.
Second.
Could we actually have a executive discussion before we do that?
You may
Now we can.
continue a discussion. Go ahead.
So here's what and I applaud the applicant for meeting with the neighbors and trying to reach compromises. It seems to me what I hear is the main issues that I understand between that the neighbors are objecting to is the amount of vegetation as well as the type of fencing along the western boundary and the berm. And to me, frankly, it's unclear. I've heard conflicting testimony on that. And what I ultimately hear from the staff is that they're not going to be able to make a determination as to the appropriateness of the type of berm until a study is done. Mm-hmm. So I think it's sort of premature to hear that, and I would urge that perhaps this be revisited at the next session and that they meet to determine the type of appropriate berm, because frankly it's difficult to make a decision on that with the conflicting testimony that I've heard.
If I may, we don't require civil plans, so there is no ability for us to come back with the civil plans to know the drainage intricacies. It's just beyond our scope. Some local governments require civil plans concurrent with the site plan approval process, but the county does not. So there isn't an ability for us to ask for those civil plans to have a full understanding of the berm and such. I mean, Wendy, can you add anything to that?
No, I mean, I do have a proposed condition in there that might have to be reworded a little bit, but ultimately it's saying that if a berm is proposed, we have to evaluate it with the civil plans, the mitigation plans, a full landscape package, determine where it is, and I believe I have that prior to final DRO. So.
And final DRO is the final site plan approval. So what's before the board today is the preliminary site plan. We don't have civil plans. We don't have the specifics of the landscape plan because that's not a requirement at this stage. So just keep that in mind. To delay this item, we won't be able to come back with a civil plan.
Yeah. Well, that was my main issue, was simply the testimony conflicts as to the need or the requirement for the type of wall that the neighbors are requesting on the western boundary and the height of the berm. The applicant has stated that it should be 1 foot. The neighbors are requesting 3 feet, and the applicant has stated that it's going to, if they go to 3 feet, it's going to destroy the vegetation. The neighbors are stating otherwise, so it's frankly unclear to me. So to the extent that we're going to approve this, I think we need to allow for that issue to be addressed at some point before the final approval.
I think we've heard the back and forth on both sides. We need to make a judgment, and I don't think we'll get more information if we wait another month. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from anyone?
Just kind of ask. Well, I understand what my fellow commissioners is saying, but Lisa, I think you could answer it. You're going to have a final look at this whole thing before it goes to DRO anyway.
Correct. And the condition that Wendy is adding will allow staff, when we do that administrative approval, to ensure the best possible scenario for preserving the trees on site and the appropriate buffer, whether it's 1 foot or 3 foot, and all the drainage requirements as well.
That's why I think our decision today is we can decide only to that aspect. And we can't go any further until it reaches these approvals to come back to you. Period.
Yeah, because what's before you today is the rezoning,
Right.
and then the Class A conditional use for townhomes. The nuances of the site plan will be at final DRO, which is the review agencies with and engineering and planning and zoning and all that.
So you get a final look at it. So we're not doing anything out of the box here by approving this. Okay.
I have a final question. That means that we will see the project after all this process or not?
No, this is the last time you'll see it. This board does not have the authority to approve final site plans. You review requests before the Board of County Commissioners for the rezoning application. So it's the rezoning request and the ability for the site to use townhomes. This board doesn't review landscape plans, civil plans, and final site plans, and lots of other things that we do, like signs and all sorts of stuff and temporary uses. We have a whole slew of things that we do. But yeah, it won't be back to the board unless they want to change it. If they want to change to some different
housing type. Maybe?
Yeah, housing type. If they wanted to change, then it would come back.
Are the neighbors consulted as part of this, the consideration with regards to the trees and the berm as you go forward?
In typical circumstances, the conditions are written in a manner to protect both the applicant and the resident's best interest. In this particular circumstance, we have worked so much with the surrounding residents, I wouldn't be surprised that dialogue continues through the final site plan.
All right, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that staff in their analysis and in their conditions have determined what they believe in their professional judgment to be the minimum requirements necessary to ensure compliance with the code and the plan and everything else that they're required to look at. Anything above and beyond that, as far as compromises between the applicant and neighbors, is certainly something to be considered. But what staff has presented to you right now is what they consider to be the minimum, and beyond that, if it can further ensure compatibility and all those other things, then they'll consider that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item 5A. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I motion.
Go ahead.
Nobody opposed.
Nobody opposed.
And I motion to recommend approval of item 5B.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yes.
One opposed. Okay. Motion passes. We're on to item 6.
Item 6 is ULDC revisions, Westgate Community Redevelopment Area Overlay. This was before the board for requests for permission to advertise. We are looking to modify, at the request of the Westgate CRA, modify and delete the number of units allowed by the density bonus pool, replacing it with a reference to the comprehensive plan. They're working on modifications to the comprehensive plan for that number. Revising the density bonus pool approval process and clarify how you get that additional density. The proposal includes revisions to parking requirements, including a reduction in guest parking, establishing waiver requirements, incorporating alternative parking, which includes scooters and motorcycles, and the deletion of our loading options and deferring it back to Article 6, which is currently less restrictive than the Westgate regulations. Just as a point of notice, we had 2 Westgate projects before you last month, in which there was discussion on parking, specifically on one of them, and so this language has incorporated suggestions from the board on alternative parking, mainly relative to incorporating motorcycle and scooter parking in our more urban area.
Yeah, and what she means is neighborly. Remember last month we recommended denial of the variance? Well, because of this amendment, they're able to get the 38 units that they're seeking and to incorporate the motorcycle parking instead of a variance. And Denise is here from the CRA.
All right, thank you.
Hi.
You may proceed.
Good morning, Commissioners. Denise Pennell, Director of Planning and Development for the Westgate CRA. Elise Michelle, the CRA's Executive Director, is also here. I do want to thank Lisa Amara, Zoning Director, and Wendy, her Deputy Director, along with Jerome Audie, who helped us work through the language of this revision and bring it all before you today. Just a quick reminder and refresher, the CRA district's 2 miles square, bounded by Okeechobee Boulevard to the north, Military Trail to the west, Belvedere Road to the south, and North Florida Mango to the east. The district is less than 1 mile from downtown West Palm Beach, just north of PBIA, with easy access to I-95. The CRA straddles BCC districts 2 and 7. The boundaries of the WCRAO correspond to the CRA's boundaries. So the purpose and intent of the zoning overlay, the Westgate Community Redevelopment Area overlay, is encouraging development and redevelopment of the CRA area through regulatory incentives, providing for mixed-use development, an opportunity for future development of workforce and affordable housing, and providing increased residential densities, commercial intensities without an amendment to the comprehensive plan. This amendment, I'll summarize it. Wendy went over it a little bit. Maybe I can skip this part, but specifically this amendment is going to touch on Article 2, application processes and procedures, and on Article 3, overlays and zoning districts, presented in 2 exhibits. The first one addresses the density bonus program. The second addresses parking and some administrative processes and cross-references. Exhibit 1A, density bonus program, deleting the reference to the number of units allowable through the density bonus pool and replacing with a reference to the comp plan. Revising the overlay density bonus pool, limits and approval processes, apply some of those processes. And Exhibit 1B, related to parking, also includes some language that links back to Article 2 for the administrative and public hearing processes. The first one revises WCRAO parking, puts in some requirements for reduced guest parking, establishes waiver processes, incorporates those alternative parking options that Wendy mentioned for additional parking reduction. It also deletes the redevelopment loading option, going back to Article 6 for that, which are less restrictive standards. Okay. The intent of the proposed revisions. The revisions support WCRAO form-based code principles, increased density, height, and parking reductions, plus decreased setbacks and buffers allow for an urban building placement and pedestrian-friendly streets. These revisions are going to offer better flexibility and some relief mechanisms in land development standards needed to support infill, redevelopment, and housing production. Facilitates the county's U.S. tier policies to encourage sustainable urban infill development, supported by the policies of the comprehensive plan, the goals of the CRA's community redevelopment plan, anticipated to have a positive public and business impact, remove some obstacles related to higher density and mixed-use redevelopment, increases housing options across the income categories to meet a countywide demand. I'll start with the bonus density program. I'll try to go through this just focusing on the bolded words. There's a lot of language in here, but part of this revision does convert tables to text. This is part of the zoning division's push to transition the ULDC to Municode, improve the readability. So the second point related to the bonus density pool, deleting the reference to number of units. Right now it reads at 1,300. This does not need to be repeated in the ULDC. That language exists in the comprehensive plan. There is a text amendment underway to the comp plan policy 123B WCRAO, residential units, to increase the number of units available in that pool. It was initiated by the BCC in August of last year. We continue to work with the county to bring that before the board again for transmittal. Related to the bonus density pool limits and approval processes, clarifies the applicable approvals process. New language establishes a provision to allow one bonus unit on lots 1 acre or less through a standalone concurrency. And this is an important little revision because it supports the uptick in smaller scale, sort of missing middle housing projects that would occur on really tiny lots that are maybe 0.15 or 0.20 of an acre, that want to do a duplex or a triplex and otherwise would be required to go through a DRO approvals process to get those extra units. And clarify some existing language around TDR transfers being allowed to apply with increased density from the pool, and repeats but rephrases in text rather than table, standalone concurrency for 1 to 4 density bonus units, DRO administrative approval for 4 to 22 units per acre, and a Class A conditional use approval to apply for projects requesting density bonus at above 22 acres, dwelling units per acres, any bonus unit within PDD or TND. On to Exhibit 1B, which relates to parking and streets. A little overview. Overlay parking standards still do lack some flexibility for more urbanized projects that have access to transit and proximity to job centers, and which would reduce the need for an automobile. Often, overlay provisions are in conflict with ULD site requirements when residential densities are increased beyond what is contemplated by the site's FLU. And then compliance with the codes are difficult to achieve without a variance or a redesign that can result at worst in loss of units. So waivers is flexible zoning. Modifying land development regulations with more appropriate standards over variances, considering the unique circumstances of a site on a case-by-case basis. And this provides the zoning director and the BCC with a mechanism to reduce overlay residential parking requirements when reasonable, without the need for a Type 2 variance. Can't base the hardship of a variance on increased density. These proposed parking alternatives and waiver processes are totally voluntary and optional. They're not required. Okay, so a little more detail, again, converting one table to text. The establishment of the Type 1 and Type 2 waiver. Currently, Article 6 allows a Type 1 administrative waiver process for the reduction of up to 15% of required parking for those developments requiring 20 or more spaces. This is not available to projects in the overlay currently. The proposed revision would allow an applicant to request reduced parking through either a Type 1 or Type 2 waiver process concurrently with a request for overlay density bonus within a mixed use or a residential development. A little bit of a background, the BCC adopted an ordinance earlier this year that allows for a waiver process for affordable housing projects and that allow a reduction of parking for projects within the URAO. The waiver being proposed for the Westgate overlay is a little different in that it applies to either residential or mixed-use projects, not exclusively to residential projects. Both the Type 1 and Type 2 parking waiver applications would be subject to the parking demand statement and management plan to justify that reduction through data analysis and how the site would be parked with reduced parking. The parking waiver approval process would be dependent on the concurrent administrative or public hearing application for Westgate density bonus. So a concurrent request for density that is between 4 and 22 units per acre, approved through the DRO approval process, those applicants could request a Type 1 waiver for a parking reduction of up to 15%. Concurrent requests for density bonus that exceeds the 22 units per acre in a standard district, or any density bonus in a PDD, TND, approved through BCC approval, would applicants would have the ability to request a Type 2 waiver to reduce parking by up to 15%. Sorry, forgot to switch the slide out. Alternative vehicle parking. This was mentioned by Wendy and came up at the last zoning commission meeting related to the Neighborly project. So the addition of alternative vehicle parking for any mixed use or non-residential project providing more than 50 parking spaces. Article 6 allows non-residential development providing 50 or more spaces to utilize motorcycle parking to a maximum of 3. parking spaces per 50 vehicles. This revision proposes a maximum of 5 required on-site parking spaces per 50, which may be reduced in size to accommodate motorcycles or scooters up to a maximum of 10 spaces. These alternative vehicle parking spaces have to be identified with a sign, and developments are going to be required to provide a parking management plan per Article 6. Okay. Point number 4, reduction in guest parking. This revision requests a minor reduction in guest parking. The ratio for standard ratio per Article 6 is 1 space per 4 units for 25%. This revision is going to put in place a 1 space per 5 units, or 20% by right, supporting those projects that increase residential density through the density bonus program. Across several South Florida jurisdictions, the guest parking ratio sits, by our research anyway, at an average of about 15%. West Palm Beach citywide, which is the closest jurisdictional neighbor, outside the downtown core, guest parking ratio is 1 per 5, or 20%. A lot of jurisdictions are silent on guest parking, but few have a 25% requirement. Okay. And the last item is eliminating the redevelopment loading option. The revision proposes to delete this language in favor of less restrictive language in Article 6. Article 6 alternative design options allows parking spaces and the drive aisle to be used in lieu of providing designated loading space during non-business hours by right. And this benefits the site design of smaller commercial and mixed-use projects that previously depended on relief from the overlays option for loading, but were restricted by some of the language within that part of the code on minimum building size, CRA review, etc. Okay, that concludes my overview of the proposed revisions. The BCC approved the request for permission to advertise on the 25th of September. The zoning director and staff are in support of the amendment. Zoning staff has found the language to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and I am here to answer any follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Staff, anything to add? No. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. All of these technical terms and that, just for me to understand, is that it will be the revision for the new parking spaces, that it will change what we have now? You have now one thing and you will have another one?
It would be for development into the future, new development. Once the revisions are codified.
No, yeah, exactly. If it's approved today, you will have new regulations for parking and ratio of parking spaces.
For the Westgate.
Oh, no, I know it's Westgate, and that will benefit the new projects coming.
Yes.
Last month, we saw a project that failed in the amount of parking.
Yes.
And then they have to reduce units.
Yes.
But now, if we reduce the spaces for parking, they can do all the units.
Correct. In that particular case, it will benefit.
All the projects will benefit for less parking.
Correct.
Okay. That is like, we are accommodating a complete zone for have less parking and more units.
Yeah.
Basically that.
Yeah. The zoning overlay supports the redevelopment plan for that area, which envisions higher density and mixed-use redevelopment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Another comment? Go ahead.
I just have a question about the hotel and motel, 1.25 spaces per room. How do they come by that? Is that throughout the county? They consider the workers, that's the 0.25?
This is existing language.
Yeah.
I just have the parking ratios up there on the screen. The only new language related to the layout of the parking ratios would be the guest parking, which is proposed to to change from 1 per 4 to 1 per 5. But the commercial uses have been in place in the table that's being converted to text since 2006.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure how it was decided upon.
What
Okay.
happens in the event that it's a studio as opposed to a one-bedroom, since this is pretty specific?
It stays at 1.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just wanted that for the record. Thank you.
All right, on item 6A, a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of item 6A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Thank you,
opposed?
Commissioners.
Item 6B? I think we need a motion on that.
Yeah, motion.
You need a motion on that?
Motion to approve as the zoning commission serving as the Land Development Regulation Commission, approving staff's recommendation of item 6B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Any comments from any commissioners or attorney, or I think we're finished, no? You do,
Recommend
any
it.
comments?
Yes,
Okay,
actually,
go ahead.
we were speaking with the Board of County Commissioners, and a couple of them mentioned that there might be a feeling by you all that you're not getting briefed well enough on the applications and on the process and those types of things. So we just wanted to follow up and make sure that you know that if you want to have a one-on-one briefing prior to this meeting, or you want additional information, we are happy to oblige and make ourselves available to do that. Also, if it's just the process that you'd like us to come back with and give another overview or more of a workshop type item and overview, the zoning process with you, just so you have a better understanding of how it gets to you and then where it goes from here, we're happy to do that as well. So just wanted to gauge that and see if you all needed anything more from us to make sure that you feel prepared for these meetings and put it out there. So if you do, please let us know.
Okay,
Say
thank
something.
you.
Can I just say
Go ahead.
something?
Go ahead.
I think staff does a tremendously good job. I've been here several years, and I've not seen any complaints. Actually, it keeps improving and improving, even though I'm the only one who likes paper.
I concur. I had a great conversation and very accessible and very knowledgeable and got back to me right away, and I really appreciate that. So.
I don't know where they get that idea, because anybody that's been on this board for any length of time would know what a great job these people do.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
And,
Or first, whatever.
yeah, first, we are in adjournment. Thank you all.